Make this holiday season a season of savings using your Just For You app at Safeway and Albertsons. With Just For You, you can stretch your holiday budget and celebrate more. Download these coupons on Just For You and click or clip for great deals like Hormel Cure 81 Premium Spiral Half Ham Bone-In $1.49 a pound. And for holiday cooking and baking, Lucerne Large Eggs 18 count 99 cents. Plus, stock up on General Mills cereals, select varieties just $1.88. Just For You at Safeway and Albertsons for the holidays. It's just better.
Oh yeah, baby. You're listening to Rad Radio.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rad Radio. I'm your host, Dani Mcmartin. And tonight we have the multi-talented actor, writer, producer, musician, and bodyguard to the stars, Dteflon, on the show with us. How are you doing, D?
I am doing okay. How's everybody up there?
What's that?
I said I'm doing okay. How is everybody up there today?
Oh, yeah, everybody here is great. You have a little bit of a, were you telling me earlier you have a little bit of a cold tonight?
Yeah, I've been struggling some traveling though. I've been on the road for the last few weeks, and so I've been sort of picked up a little bit of a bug. So I apologize if I sound like Gargamel from Sesame Street here.
I think you sound all right. To me, you sound pretty good. I'm sure the ladies are going to think you sound all right. But moving right along, by the way, two single ladies, but moving right along. So you've been in the entertainment industry for over 10 years, and you're quite multifaceted.
22 to be exact.
And so tell us...
Celebrate my 22-year anniversary of being in the entertainment industry this year.
Is that right? Because I had seen your bio, and it said over 10 years. Even 10 years is
probably
a long time
it probably hasn't been updated.
Entertainment industry.
It probably, I don't know, you might have been reading an old bio. It probably might have been not been updated, which one you read. But yeah, it's been a long journey, man. It's been 18 years in film and television, and 22 years as a whole in the whole business itself.
Yeah, you do a little bit of everything. So, and for people who don't know who you are, maybe you can tell everyone what you do, all the things that you do.
Well, basically, I mean, as I said, I started from the ground up, I guess you would say. I entered this business in around 1993. Where I actually started to thought this was something that I was passionate about and I wanted to do. My initial beginning was a dancer. That's what I started off as, and I worked first in the club circuit when I was younger, and then eventually that opened doors for me to connecting with a few musical artists that had me do a little, dance infomercial commercials back, I guess, when CDs were around and people used to have to put out promotional videos to sell their albums and stuff like that. And then that ended up eventually getting caught the attention of a few of the major artists that were in the era of that time, which the first person that was to give me a break was Jordan Knight of New Kids on the Block when he decided to go on to his solo career. And I worked as a backup dancer for him for the first 5 years professionally, and doing choreographing for a lot of his musical shows and videos. And I got to go on tour and do a few things with that. And then eventually that opened up the door for me doing some dancing work with artists such as C.C. Peniston, CNC Music Factory, Robin S., Stevie B, and it was a fun time. It was something that I enjoyed doing, and I worked the club circuit still as a dancer, and for a very long time. And then I had a breakdancing crew that we went around and we battled people for competitions and stuff like that, and then eventually, Mother Time takes over and your body starts to take a beating, and injuries per se, number one, of sort of caught up with me, and I realized I wanted to step into a different realm. And from that point on, I moved on into the musical field as a musician. And if you can look up some of the stuff that I've done on my website, which is Dteflon.com, or on YouTube. I performed a professional musician as a drummer with a drum corps, and basically traveled the globe with that. Did that for almost 13 years until I retired from doing it, from performing, competing and stuff like that, and pretty much everywhere. And we went to Hawaii and Japan and Ireland, and pretty much all over, doing different shows. And from that point on, I mean, it was more for the fun, and we got to see a lot of exciting places. Unfortunately, when I was younger, it forced me to miss out on a lot of things, because you're constantly traveling, as a performer, so you're missing out a lot on school. So, I didn't really have, I guess you would say, a large group of people that I knew growing up in a group or a clique. So this was like the biggest clique I could say I would have of friends, where we had a band that was over 250 members that were in the corps, and it was fun. I miss it even to this day, but it wasn't paying the bills, because it was, when you do stuff like that, you got to do it with passion. But then as you start getting older, basically, I eventually realized that, I have to start, putting food on the plate, because I was on my own, as a young teenager, at a very young age, and, needed to make money. So then that's when I sort of got introduced to somebody who introduced me into the club scene, and I started working in that circuit, full time. Basically starting up, and decided that I wanted to do more, and I wanted to entertain, but I also wanted to create an atmosphere for people. And I worked the scene from, you name it, from a busboy all the way up to a manager, to eventually owning my own spot. And that's pretty much how that journey started on that realm, and which, entitled, for me, gave me an idea when I first started up my business, and my company was started off as a very small promotional entertainment company, where we would bring in dancers and acts and stuff like that to perform. And because I had this platform of this nightclub I was working at, and I was an events manager there, I was able to be able to bring in talent from all over the world, on the owner's budget. And that basically introduced me to making some real connections with the celebrity world, and something that I knew that, that would come to fruition. I didn't know, obviously, as big as it became, but the relationships that I built with certain people, have gone on now for over 20 years, where I was bringing them into the venue to perform or do whatever. But then it just eventually opened doors for me to do other things in the business with them, and that pretty much was the start of my journey, I guess you would say.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the whole trying to get to know people in the industry, because trying to break into the industry is difficult. But once someone gives you a break, and I think someone has to give you a break, that's kind of the way it goes, then it's the whole 6 degrees of separation thing.
Well, I've always said, I come from an old school. Before social media, before, Instagram and Facebook and all the tools that people use now to get known. To me, it's cool. If that's your thing and that's your gimmick, and that's what you like to use in a sense, number one, to get out there, because it is, the thing of this generation now. But, I strongly believe in old school work ethic, and for me, I've always said the easiest part of show business is getting there. The hard part is staying there. You just got to do the work, and a lot of people, have forgotten that, in a sense, number one, that hard work to me, I mean, will still always pay off. It's not necessarily, the same pace or the same, obviously, degree as it is now, because there's so many less talented people in our industry that have become famous and wealthy and successful, famous for basically doing nothing. And people, number one, that are actually have put the time in, the training in, the work ethic, have a little bit slower pace because of the fact that they don't know necessarily how to market or brand themselves. I mean, yes, I got a break, but, the business, the real people in the business can cut through the bullshit and cut through in the sense, number one, seeing somebody that, is just in it for a paycheck or just in it to use people, or the people that actually have a passion for it, and for me, I mean, when I got my break, I mean, I was very lucky, but I was also, determined to get my break by doing the work and doing the homework, and I studied the game. And tried to figure out who the players are. I mean, many people, number one, who get into the industry of film and television, modeling, music, whatever, I mean, they're looking at the celebrities that have made it, but not necessarily understanding the struggles and sacrifice that person went to get it, and most importantly, at the end of the day, like, I've always believed when what one of my mentors had told me, which was, a man by the name of Sidney Pollack, rest in peace, of Mirage Films, who was my mentor, who was the guy that gave me my first break in the business. He always used to say to me, if you've got real talent, real people find you. And, when I met him, I didn't know him. I didn't know him at all. But I decided to, he was one of my favorite filmmakers, and directors, and I decided to do my homework and went online and studied enough information about him as I could. And I said, one day if I am ever in LA, and I ever make that jump at that time, I wasn't living in LA at the time, and I make it there, you never know who you're going to run into at any given time of day. You never know who you're going to meet at any given time of day. So I've always believed that knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have about somebody, that power of that knowledge can actually help break through doors that you probably wouldn't be able to. And a lot of times, if you are in a situation where you meet a celebrity or you meet somebody, number one, that you're a fan of, the question always will run through your mind, like, what will you say? And lots of people don't say anything. They giggle and they say, sir, can I get a picture? And that's it. And, and that person, whether it be a celebrity or you feel that you walked away not really getting what you wanted, and the end of the day, for me, it was like, I said, if I'm ever in the room with this person, I want to have a conversation of more than, hi, how are you doing? Because again, that's not going to get that conversation going. If I'm really trying to impress this person, I'm really trying to get a break from this person. So I decided to learn the business. I started to learn about what that person had done in the business. And I guess it had been fate or whatever the case may be, but my first time out in LA in 1999, I basically, walked into a room and I was at this party, and lo and behold, I mean, Sidney Pollack was in this building for this event. And I walked up to him with, a little young kid that didn't know shit, but knew in the sense, number one, that, that this was a guy that he had a wealth of knowledge. And I walked up to him with him and basically, first introduced myself and said, listen, you know what, like, I know you don't know me, and I know that this may seem kind of odd, but, I been a big fan of your work, and I defined a lot of the stuff that he had done, and said, listen, I'm new to the city, and, I really want an opportunity, but I don't want you to pay me for it, financially, because if you go at somebody, number one, that, is in this business with that approach of like, I'm worth this and I'm worth that, and you should just hire me, you're pretty much going to get shut down fast. Because at the end of the day, they don't know you and at all. They don't know anything about you. But I knew everything about him. And I knew that, that with $50 in my pocket and didn't know where I was going to sleep that night, but I knew the wealth of knowledge that this man had was going to be something that you couldn't get in a paycheck. You couldn't get from learning that in a book. You had, or even reading it on an IMDb. You had to work side by side and shadow somebody who of that caliber of skill to be able to, figure out exactly, what you want to do and how you want to go about, approaching the business. And I said, listen, sir, you don't know me, but I would really, like the opportunity to learn from you. And I'm hoping that, you'll give me a break. And I mean, it didn't happen overnight, but after, me being persistent and going after what I wanted, I sort of kept, we exchanged information that night, and I kept calling his office every single day, probably for the next 3 months, until finally that call came. And his assistant called me at the time, and basically, we set up a meeting, and the rest was history. I had to sell myself, obviously, once I got in that door, but, he was clearly impressed with the knowledge that I knew for somebody that didn't know anything, and he took me under his wing. And I worked as an apprentice for him, literally, I learning the ropes of filmmaking and producing and directing, and I got a really, good head start that most people don't get. And I got to work on a lot of different, productions with some huge legends of names now that are in the business now that, at the time, they were just coming up. They were just, names that, that are synonymous now in film and television. But, just like them, they had their break, they stood it off, and they worked at it, and they studied the game, and eventually, more doors kept opening for them because of their talent. Talent to me, I always say, is the one thing that, nobody can take away from you in this business. It's either you got it or you don't. And if you have it, and you have a dream and you have something that you're passionate about, it doesn't matter the time frame. People think that there's a time limit on the sense of when they make it. Or, people are always sit there and say, I'm too old to do this, or I'm too old to follow my dream. I strongly disagree with that. I think that, if you have a dream, you protect it at all costs, and you go after it at all costs. And the only thing that's stopping you from reaching that dream is you. And, for me, that door of opportunity, it opened for me, but I looked at that, that was only a stepping stone. That wasn't where my door was going to end. I knew that, that there was a lot more for me to do, but you got to start somewhere, and you got to be willing to pay your dues, and and just be patient. That everything will happen in time.
Right, and so out of all the things that you mentioned that you've worked hard and you've had to work your way up, what single thing do you think you can attribute to your longevity in this business? Because you've been in this business for so long. Which of those qualities do you think is most important for staying in the business?
To me, the number one thing I think that people, it's sort of been lost in this generation of business, that I unfortunately, don't find anymore is the best word I can use is integrity. That's the one thing. I mean, there's many times that I could have sold my soul to the devil, and taken the easy way out and taken a quick paycheck or screwed somebody over, and for me, I mean, I've sacrificed a lot, health, I've sacrificed, friends, I've sacrificed family, because that's the nature of this beast. I mean, you get into this business and you have to have one goal, but, that one goal isn't selling out to me. It never has been, it never will be. I believe in the fact that, my longevity per se, number one, as well is the ability to, to bounce back like a cat, I guess you would say, the ability, to establish relationships with people and build friendships and build bonds. But also, at the end of the day, I've never asked for a handout. Everything I've gotten in my life, I've earned, and I believe that, you should always earn before you demand, something. People get into the business who have no experience, no knowledge, no anything, and the first thing is question is always going to be how much money am I going to make? How much money am I going to make? And I'm like, who determines, per se, number one, how much you're worth when you haven't done anything? And I knew when I got in the business, I wasn't worth shit. I didn't know anything about the business. But I took the time to learn the business and learn in the sense, number one, that, you got to pay your dues. And I think that is something that has truly been lost in our industry and truly been lost in the fact that the culture that we're in and the environment that we're in, that people truly feel they're owed something. And they truly feel they're owed, that right to be famous, or that right to be a celebrity, that right to, to be rich. And at the end of the day, no one has earned anything that they didn't, that they shouldn't work for, in my opinion. Like, nothing should be handed to anybody. Nothing should come easy, because if it came easy, that's a short-lived career. I mean, if you look at it, you can look at Milli Vanilli, if you want to use that as an example. I mean, Milli Vanilli, when they first came out in the 80s, was one of the biggest, groups of all time. But their whole career was a facade. And as quick as they became, in the industry, per se, number one, as the number one musical artist, once that whole scandal broke, things changed. Their career changed. One of them ended up actually killing himself, over the situation, because of the fact of the stress. And I think that is where it comes down to is it's the most important thing is the ability in this business when you first start off the keys to our longevity is knowing when to pick your battles and knowing when to have a voice. You're in control of your own destiny. You're in control of everything that you do. The business tends to try to pull you away, and when you're young, people are throwing things at you. You look at the easy money, look at the easy fame, and you think, well, you know what? Like, I should just say yes to everything. And that was, I think, was my ability, is that I always was going to be my own person. I was always going to make my own decision. I was always going to make my own path. No one was going to tell me on how I could do something and when I can do it. And I think if you stick to that conviction and you be your own person and you separate yourself from the sellouts, and most importantly, try to surround yourself with really good people that that have the same passion as you, you can last in this business a very long time. But if you take a wrong path and associate yourself with the wrong people, or necessarily, are only in it for the reasons of money and fame and success, you're going to crash and burn real quickly. And you'll find out, what the main reasons why a lot of people that you see who are in our industry, music, television, wrestling, whatever, who die before the age of 40 or the age of 50, do a drug overdose or suicide, because, the one thing that, in this business that, when that light stops and that camera's not, that's not playing, or they're not chanting your name in an arena, you're alone. It's a very lonely place. So, you got to find something outside of the business, outside of that industry that you can hold on to, that when the days, and the days where you don't want to go on anymore and you want to quit because things get hard, you're able to find that one thing that, that can keep you going and keep you mentally balanced. And I think balance is a very strong key, whether it be with family, or whether it be with, just having an outside purpose. Because, at the end of the day, I mean, all the money, all the house, all the success, all the fame, can't take that with you to the grave. And that's what people have to remember. You got to enjoy what you do, and you got to love what you do. And if you don't love what you do, then you know what? Then you're just not working, towards anything, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel, because I feel this way, I feel that we are, in this country especially, there's an increasing sense of entitlement, and it keeps getting worse. every year. And so you've mentioned that as far as the acting and entertainment industry goes, that I think it's extremely prevalent.
Sorry, repeat the
do you
question
feel
again?
that it's? Do you
Sorry,
feel
I
that
didn't hear
there's sorry? Do you feel that there's an increasing sense of entitlement in this country?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think with this generation, I mean, I guess you would call it millennials. You know, there is a self-entitlement. You know, that unfortunately is the sad part. You know, about this. It's the reason why, I mean, a lot of things in entertainment and business have declined, because, you know, that work ethic is just gone. You know, and as I said, with the access of social media and Instagram, and people think that, you know, that at the end of the day, I mean, being a celebrity or a public figure was something that, you know, that you earned. You know, it wasn't something that was just given to you. You know, we didn't have reality TV. We didn't have shows like, you know, Jersey Shore. You know, bottom line, you know, that just necessarily, you know, like, you could get paid $500,000 an episode to get drunk and look like an idiot. You know, if we have the tools, per se, that this generation has now to use in order to that platform, you know, to not have to be able to wait for a casting director or wait, in a sense, for an opportunity to get seen. I mean, everybody in the world would be famous, you know, back then, you know, and stuff like that. But, you know, at this day and age, it's just a different time. It's a different time.
So before we get on to the next question, I want to tell people, if you're calling in, please be patient. We're going to take calls here very shortly, but we just have a few questions I want to ask Dee here before we start doing that. So you have also been a celebrity bodyguard. I've heard that's a crazy job, just nuts sometimes.
It's got its perks, its advantages, I guess you would say. I mean, it's definitely not what people think it is. You know, the ones that are on the outside. I mean, a lot of people think they know the business, but they really don't have a clue about what the business is about.
You were in a reality show about that.
Yeah,
was it called Guarding the Stars?
Yes, it was. It was produced by Star Television and my film company, which is Vision Films, and the Alliance Entertainment Group. And we basically, you know, it first got presented to me as a documentary episode, and then where they were interviewing different people in the security industry, from, you know, military to government officials, security, and I was the one guy, I guess you would say, that sort of brought the entertainment value into the question, because I was working with some of the biggest names in the industry at the time. And, you know, I started off working, the guy that gave me my first break in that business was an artist by the name of Ja Rule. And I started working with Murder Inc. in the early 90s and 2000 era, when, you know, that era was great for music, of hip-hop and R&B. And went on tour with him. We actually met on a movie set and then became friends, and then the rest was history. And, you know, I got very fortunate to work for an amazing group of people and a great, amazing group of company of that family that we had there at Murder Inc. You know, through all the ups and the highs and the lows, you know, of Murder Inc.'s, you know, demise, per se, number one. I mean, I'm still in contact with a lot of them. I'm still friends with Charlie Baltimore. Still talk to Ja. But I mean, it was a pretty crazy scenario. I mean, if you guys want to see some of the episodes, you can look up YouTube and punch in Guarding the Stars. You can see some clips from there that have been posted. But basically, I mean, you know, I worked throughout a whole 50 Cent, Ja Rule, you know, Murder Inc. feud. I mean, it was a crazy time to be, you know, in that business, you know, and I'm still involved in it to this day. Not obviously as much, just because of the fact that I've got other things going on, but I still have primary clients that I work with and I work for, but I mean, I left the music industry mainly because of the fact that, it was pretty dangerous. I ended up working with a lot of different successful music artists, from Ja Rule to LL Cool J to Justin Timberlake, and again, relationships that were built, based on my work ethic, and my word of mouth. And, I got to connect and work with one of the biggest film companies in Los Angeles. And I got, hired by a man by the name of Randall Emmett, who's also my mentor, working for his company. And if anyone's familiar with their work, they know that, they've produced films from Rambo to Lone Survivor, and a whole bunch of other films, also the new television show Power. And for me, I mean, the one thing about that company is that it's a very unique company in the fact that they only work with the same people. And so for me, building relationships with Morgan Freeman, LL Cool J, Justin Timberlake, all people that have been on the umbrella of their films, I got to work with these people, over and over and over and over again, building that relationship over time, and then eventually it just became like, word of mouth, where again, for me, if I'm going to do anything, I want to do it, with passion, and I want to do it in the sense, number one, with longevity, and that's what I did, and it's been a crazy ride. I mean, it's, again, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of sleepless nights, and a lot of, time on the road with away from your family.
Okay, so without mentioning any names, because that's a big no-no in this business, what is the craziest situation you've ever been in as a bodyguard, or the craziest thing someone's asked you to do?
The craziest thing someone's asked me to do?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of crazy things. I mean, I think there's crazy and there's dangerous. I mean, so I can sort of answer both, I guess you would say. I mean, the craziest thing is probably obviously to get somebody drugs, and or let's say the most dangerous, I guess you would say, on that aspect, and I don't know if I've really been after anything crazy, because at the end of the day, like, again, you have to have the power to say no. But I mean, most of the time that things that I get asked, mainly that really aren't that crazy, is that you get asked from a client is mainly just is with the male client, and maybe if you know a lot of women, because I work on the modeling end of the industry as well too. And I know a lot of females that are in the business because I manage a few professional models in the industry. They want to, get girls, and they want to get groupies back to the hotel room, and I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there's nothing too outlandish I ever really get asked, I mean, other than maybe, go pick up some drugs, for me on a corner somewhere. But, that's about it. I mean, it's most people are pretty down to earth, and they want their privacy, especially nowadays, with that confidentiality between, you and your client and et cetera, then, you go, and that's pretty much how it works.
So who is the most easygoing celebrity you've ever worked with, and why?
Easiest going? Probably, I mean, I can say that, who is inspiration, the guy that got me into this business, the guy that made me want to do this business, and probably the nicest celebrity that you'll ever. It's sort of a toss-up between two individuals. And number one would be Kiefer Sutherland, who is like the man in every sense of the way. I mean, he is a true gentleman, a true professional, probably one of the classiest guys you'll ever meet in this business. And probably the nicest guy, as well, too, who is probably the most down to earth, would be John Travolta. He's another client of mine, in a sense, and a friend. Yeah.
That's
a lot of things that you hear about John.
I mean,
a lot of things that people hear about John. I mean, clearly, in a sense, number one, and until you know somebody, really, I don't believe anybody has the right to judge anybody until you've actually sat down with them. Don't believe everything you see on television. Don't believe everything that you hear through the media. But people, and probably would be, I guess, in the top three with the same would be Tom Cruise. We worked together on a film called Collateral, and back in 2004. And, this huge megastar, in a sense, number one, a film icon. Again, it's probably one of the nicest guys you ever meet in the business.
That's actually surprising to me because he is like a huge star. But I had a question from someone earlier. Huh?
Okay, go ahead.
About you playing Jason on Friday the 13th. And somebody just wanted to know all about that. And they wanted you to explain how was it.
It's an independent remake that's going to be coming out. It's actually a sequel to the first one we did. It was produced, in a sense, by two film companies, mine and another company, US Productions. And, it was something that I always wanted to do because I'm good friends with a guy by the name of Andrew Benarski, who plays Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And, I always was fascinated about, someone acting for 30 minutes to an hour without saying one word and being able to, to put that character into life. And a lot of times people think that that's easier, per se, number one, than it is. But it's a lot harder, because you have to do a lot of things with movement, and you have to do a lot of things, per se, number one, with bringing that emotion out without saying anything throughout an entire, 40 minutes that you're performing, on camera. And for me, with not obviously, being a fan of the originals, growing up as a kid from Jason to Friday the 13th and, to Michael Myers and Freddy Krueger, I did a lot of homework and a lot of research, per se, number one, on watching those films over again, before I decided to take on, because, you obviously, when you're taking on something that has been played by somebody for real, like, in a sense, the icons that have played it, I can't do what they've done, and I would never try to duplicate what they've done. The only thing you can try to do is basically when it's an independent, is to put your own little spin on it and try to make, I think, with any character that, you're taking on. It doesn't matter whether it's you're playing somebody or playing somebody different, in a mainstream character, you got to put your own spin on it. Either people are going to like it or not like it, but you got to hope for the best that, as an actor, the product that you put out, people are going to they're going to like it, and for me, when we went to the Fair Awards, for the Sarasota Film Festival, on that first screening, I remember sitting in my seat and I said, I'm like, I really hope I'm able to do the guys that played this character justice. And for me, when I got into character, I never got out of character, but I had to take myself to a very, very dark place, which isn't necessarily sometimes easy to do for people, but because I had gone through a lot of, trials and tribulations growing up, and I unfortunately got to see some things that I, don't really think that any young person or young kid should have to see at an early age. I had to dig really down into those dark places, and I had to picture myself that, if I was a serial killer, what goes into the mind of a serial killer, and I'll admit, there were some days that I broke down crying on set, but with the help of the direction of the director, and my talented team of people that I worked with on that film, we really hoped, that I was able to. And I think, when the fans first saw some of the outtakes, number one, from the first film, Bloodbath, we were able, number one, to create something different and create some magic and create something that was special, because I think, either way, these stories have a way of, they can go on forever. And the great thing about horror is that, you can tell any story, And as long as there's, you pretty much know how the plot's going to be. Everyone's going to get killed, and someone's going to end up surviving at the end, and the bad guy's going to get killed anyway. But it's always going to end up, where it's a continuation onto the next film, and that's what we hoped to do. And I just put it all out there, and that was, I think with anything that you do as an actor or any performance of any level in the business, you just got to put it out there, And I mean, I haven't seen the final product because I don't like to watch my work, but I mean, that was one project that I can say that I did look at, a few of the things, and I wanted to step up my game, and you just don't want to make sure that that you're paying respect and homage to the original people that did it.
So, would you say you're a method actor then?
It depends on the role. I mean, it depends on. I mean, I'm a very visual person. I mean, there's certain comfort zones that I won't step into, because I'm used to. For me, my career in the business as an actor was always playing a cop or a federal agent or an FBI agent or Secret Service agent or something along those lines. In a sense, number one, or as a lawyer, when I did effects. But it was. This is why it was, for me, it was something that was completely different. And honestly, it was probably the most fun I ever had doing something, in the business as an actor. Because you know what, like, again, who doesn't want to get messy with blood and gore and, and again, I didn't have to say anything for 30 minutes, So it was a fun time for me to, if I could do it every day for the rest of my life and get paid for it, I probably would do a horror 1,000 times over. Because again, you can be creativity with characters like that. You get to play. But it's why we get into business. You're playing make believe. You're playing that third wall. To somebody else, and it sometimes it's an escape. From our own lives, the things that the stress, the bills, the things that we face every single day. Here's a way for you to be able to step into something else and be somebody else for another day. So I mean, who wouldn't want to play that?
So, and out of all the things that you do, because you're not just an actor, you were a backup dancer, which you don't do anymore, but you're also a producer and a writer and a bodyguard. All these things, what is your favorite thing to do? I mean, you said that playing Jason is your favorite thing is acting, but as a whole, what's your favorite thing to do in the entertainment industry?
My thing in the entertainment business is honestly, really, I didn't get into it for the reasons that people think most people get into it. My reasons were, I do a lot of philanthropy work. I do a lot of stuff with the Make-A-Wish Foundation and Sick Kids Foundation, and I believe truly in the fact that, if you're given an opportunity in this business, I think it's your responsibility as, whatever celebrity is a word that I think, to me, it's been created by fans and culture. But, I don't believe, that that's a word that you can ask any person that's, in a position of notoriety to use that word. I mean, we look at ourselves as no different than anybody else. We eat the same, we shit the same, we go to sleep the same, we're regular people. Just some people are just a little bit more passionate about, doing the work, and some people got lucky, but people that I associate myself with are the ones that, number one, that have actually, again, they've earned their spot. You can't take anything from them. They've earned it. And for me, I think that, you have a responsibility to use your power to influence, and influence a generation, a kid, and that is, for me, is my most, fun thing to do, is to be able to give back and give knowledge or give a smile to somebody that was less fortunate due to disability, to be able to let them see that, that there is a way for you to live your dreams. Think about it, whether you're in a wheelchair or not. I mean, if you love something, go after it. And you don't let anybody stop you. So for me, I mean, when I'm able to give back in that way and use whatever notoriety that I have in this business, whether it's big or small, in any shape or form, that is my number one thing. Making, entertaining is something I've always loved to do. and I've always enjoyed that, and I've always enjoyed, putting on a performance in a sense when I whether be performing as a musician or, whatever, form that I'm in. But at the end of the day, it's a job for me. It's a job at the end of the day, just like anybody else goes to a job. I don't try to take it too seriously when I'm not in it and not working, but when I am working, I take it dead serious because at the end of the day, I feel I have a responsibility, for the people, number one, that gave me that opportunity, not to let them down, not to make them look, not to look like a jackass or a fool and make a fool of myself, doing something stupid, where a lot of times I think, again, going back to this generation of self-entitlement, you see so many train wrecks of people, number one, that have all the talent in the world, who are musicians, performers, actors, whatever, and they piss their entire career away to just, go on a weekend bender drinking or doing drugs or doing something stupid. And I think that is the biggest, downfall of our industry. And so for me, at the end of the day, like, enjoying what I do in the sense, number one, like of entertainment, and being able to pass that hope that someone that's sitting there watching something that I do, because again, we all want to be inspired. I was inspired by my heroes, and and the amount of people that are dying in our industry now, this generation doesn't have any heroes like that we had growing up. So for me, it's like, what, if I can inspire somebody, big or small, to go out there and accomplish something that they're passionate about, that's the biggest reward to me at the end of the day. That I love doing.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because I know it's very close to your heart, and you have a foundation that you started called the Believe Foundation, and well, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, and I'm sure our listeners would like to hear a little bit more about that as well.
Okay, well, the Believe Foundation, bottom line, is it's Heroes of Hope. It's a foundation that I started with a group of different celebrity friends of mine, where we would travel for a weekend, which is called the ESW Celebrity Weekend, where we would travel to different cities, New York, Calgary, LA, Toronto, Canada, and we put on a 3-day, event, workshop, meet and greet, dinner, gala, celebrity brunch, actor studio, and then with combination of a toy drive of being able, number one, to raise money and raise toys, and my goal was in the initial starting is where I wanted to donate 1 million toys for underprivileged kids that are sick in the hospital, terminally ill, to put that smile on their face. So, we started this foundation like about 3-4 years ago, and we've raised, a considerable amount of toys, visited over, 45 different hospitals around the world on my own dime, donating, meeting with kids. I've brought into the mix some very close friends of mine, such as Sharon Case from The Young and the Restless, Daniel Goddard from The Young and the Restless, Joshua Morrow, Charlie Rena, International Playmate of the Year, and Maxim Clevergirl, and as well like Matt Murray from Rookie Blue, and various actors, number one, from the industry who have traveled with me all over, spending time, going to different hospitals, doing meet and greets. And, it's something that is close to my heart on that aspect. The SBT project was something that I teamed up with the ADL defamation.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I was going to ask you about that as well.
Basically, I mean, it's things due to my own personal, situations in my own life, in the sense of where, I would do with cyberbullying and cyber attacks and celebrity stalking, and it was a foundation where, I don't feel that the police do enough, per se, number one, to help victims, who have gone through things like that, and I wanted to be able to start a movement, in order to bring, bottom line, in a sense, number one, like, awareness to the cause. Teaming up with my buddy James Morrison and Mark Taylor from James Morrison, who stars on 24, and Mark Taylor from a series called Flashpoint, and Sean Kanan and a few other individuals, we worked with the ADL, bottom line, to hopefully bring these type of crimes, which they are a crime, to make it a criminal offense and stop, having people sweeping under the rug and saying that, that it's just words and we should sound off. But, it's become a serious crime where people are killing themselves over this stuff. And, and I believe that, again, it's a responsibility that if you can help bring a stop to something, then you do it, and I can't do it alone. So that's why, unfortunately, I teamed up with a bunch of friends of mine that, who have children, who have kids, trying to protect, the next generation, to hopefully that, we can make the internet a safer place than what it is. Because it's a very dangerous place right now. There's a lot of things going on in the world, right now that are pretty crazy, and I think that, people would take the freedom of speech thing a little bit too far, and there's got to be some regulations, I think, that need to be put in place on social media of things that, you can speak your mind, but when you viciously attack people, it's just not something that I agree with.
Yeah, and here's the thing, you used to be able to be anonymous on the internet, and you really can't anymore, but yet we still see cyberbullying happening on a daily basis. In fact, it seems like it's more prevalent. Why do you think that is?
Because I think, number one, as I said, that at the end of the day, it's to the point now. I think, number one, that this hiding behind a screen. I'm going to have to shit that people say on the net. I know for a fact wouldn't have the balls to say it to my face or anybody's face if they saw that person in person. And I think, number one, we need to strip through all this anonymous BS, and start making people accountable for their actions. And at the end of the day, to me, there should be, again, regulations of where that people aren't allowed to post anonymously. That those things should be, put into a public, almost like, a registered offenders, like for sex offenders. If you slander somebody online, which is the goal of our SBT project, is to make a database that's connected, working with different law enforcement that we've been working with, to basically, number one, crack down where if you're a person that's just a serial, stalker or a serial offender in online slander towards somebody, then eventually, again, after 3 strikes, just like anything else, you should be held accountable. And that should be the point of where it's not where, you're giving a slap on the wrist. It's an automatic jail sentence, because I think that at the end of the day, until we start making a crackdown on these things that are happening online, this is never going to end. It's only going to get worse.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. People aren't really anonymous online anymore like they used to be. You can find out just about anything about anyone just from a screen name these days. So that's why I'm personally so surprised that cyberbullying is still happening to the degree that it is. And, it really is a problem that we need to combat. And I want to know what would you say to kids who are struggling with that right now?
At the end of the day, number one, as I said, is the kids, I think nowadays that, they don't realize, again, how dangerous the internet is. But I think people, number one, I think they're, that not only just parents, need to regulate and monitor their activity of their children. Obviously you can't be with them 24/7, but I think, kids just need to be a little bit smarter with what they post, who they have as their friends, because 90% of the people, number one, that do the abuse, people that they know, rather than complete strangers. And, and you just really have to, be aware about, when you're writing something, the impact that may work, because it's not just words anymore. These things do hurt for certain people, and it's not about just, saying what you feel and thinking that it's okay, but you have to just, again, be very, very smart and cautious and just straight up not like a jackass online. Otherwise, to me, I believe, and that's the main reasons why places in China have banned the internet and banned Google and stuff like that, because again, it's why a lot of times, those countries are passing us in the economy and passing us in everything, because there's not that distraction. You know, I think the social media internet has destroyed a lot of things in the world today. To me, it hasn't done anybody any favors. You know, that's just my opinion. You know, I think it's a tool that in the beginning was great because it was new, but I think as it's not about kids anymore, because I think the biggest offenders more than kids are adults.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think there's a limit. I think it's helpful to some degree for children, but there is a limit, and I think part of the problem is parents aren't setting those limits these days. Would you agree?
Yeah, but again, as I said, I mean, the problem is now with parents is that we live in a generation where there's more kids having kids. So I think at the end of the day, I mean, you can't expect a kid who's 19, 20 to be able, number one, who has a child, you know, at that young age, to even know the difference between right and wrong. But I think, you know, at the end of the day, it's a matter, as I said, of just, again, you know, being responsible. And if you're man enough, per se, or woman enough, you know, to become a parent at a young age, then it's your responsibility, you know, as you wanted to be an adult quickly, to be able to do the things properly as an adult, to make sure that, you know what, that your kids don't suffer the way that Amanda Todd did with Carol Todd's and their daughter, and a numerous amount of children, number one, that have lost their lives due to, you know, cyberbullying, because they got to a point where they went to the police, they didn't help. And for me, I mean, the thing with the SBT project that we try to bring the light as well, but there's a double standard out there. There's a double standard for women. There's a double standard for men, where that men get cyber attacked and abused. It used to be a celebrity thing. Now it's not just it used to be a business thing. Now it's an every person thing. But, you know, the police, just like any domestic violence situation, they don't do nothing until it's too late. Right? And to me, you know, I feel that there's got to be a place for people to go to, and not just a support helpline per se, number one, but we actually have people, number one, working around the clock to not only find the people that were responsible for cyber attacking them, you know, but a responsibility to help them justice that they actually need. It's very time consuming, and it's very, in a sense, number one, but at the end of the day, myself and the ADL can continue to bring, in a sense, number one, like, you know, an awareness to make these things stop and have them change the laws, you know, in the judicial system, it'll be even better. But we know someone needs to set an example. Someone needs to break that mold and stop using the excuse that, you know, it's a freedom of speech, because it's not anymore. You know, people are getting victimized. People are getting their identity stolen. People are getting, you know, all kinds of things happening to them on the net, and all these little technology gadgets that Facebook Messenger and all these things. It's just another way of, number one, of breaching people's privacy and breaching people's, safety. And to me, I think people nowadays, you know, they take their safety for granted. And then when they're stuck into a victim, they don't know what to do, and they're out of options. And it's time for people to start taking back the control of their privacy. You know, we have to protect our children. We have to protect the future. Otherwise, we're not going to have one.
I agree. So moving along, because I wanted to spend the first half of the show talking about you, but you and I had talked earlier, and we kind of want to spend the second half of the show talking about some hot-button subjects right now, and things that are probably pretty controversial. What's that?
Okay, yeah. We can take some calls too if you like.
Yeah, so if you guys want to call and chime in about what we're talking about, the phone number to call in is 929-477-2218, and we're going to be taking callers really, really soon. But our first topic is going to be about Kim Kardashian's recent robbery. And what are your thoughts on that whole fiasco?
Where do you want to start with that? I mean, I got a lot of
controversy. What?
Well, I mean, I know Kim. I haven't seen her in a few years, whatever, and stuff like that. I mean, I actually did personal security for her at one time as well too. But that was one of the times when she was dating Ray J. But I got to know her over a few years, and before she became this media sensation that she is now. I'm grateful that she's okay. I'm grateful, bottom line, that her kids were not with her when that situation happened, and she got out of there safe. But obviously a lot of people, number one, have made their comments per se, some negative, some positive, in the media, and the fact of whether this was an inside job and it was a setup for her to get more attention, and insurance scam money. And at the end of the day, I can't make a comment on that because no one really knows, and I'm not going to make a comment on it. If that was the case, it would be pretty sick in a sense, number one, but it's not what she has not done publicity stunts before, with her marriage and everything else to get money and stuff like that, and again, if she did, it was genius on a sense of a marketing ploy. But I think that at the end of the day, as I said, there's people that are in the business that will sell their soul, for money, and there's other people that won't, and if that did legitimately happen to her, again, going back to what I was saying in the last 5 minutes ago about we take in this generation our safety for granted. If that really was what happened, you're one of the richest, wealthiest women in the world right now, and you bring one security, one bodyguard with you on a trip overseas. Makes no sense to me. Angelina Jolie, when Brad Pitt, they would travel. They've got 40, 50 security guards with them traveling to keep them safe, keep their family members safe, keep their kids safe. At the end of the day, I can't blame that bodyguard per se, number one, for not being there, because he was there, as well, protecting another, part of the family at the time when this incident apparently happened. But I also do blame him to a certain degree, where when you take on a contract, as a bodyguard per se, number one, and this goes in my level of expertise, you got to weigh the pros and cons. If you're out in the middle of nowhere in a country that you don't know, anything can happen. And for me, my rule has always been is that, if I'm with the whole family, I'm not traveling alone. Even if I got to travel with one other person, one other guy that I can trust, that if shit hits the fan, I got some backup. But most importantly, no matter what the situation is, no matter the sense, number one, at the end of the day, I think this is where, again, there's a lot of bodyguards that are in the business that become yes men. A lot of security guards that have been in the business become yes men. And I think that's the biggest mistake that, where, as I said, you can take a client for money, but if it's going to take away your credibility and take away, in a sense, number one, your power for you to do your job, it's not a client that, to me, is worth taking on. And for him, Pasquale, I guess is his name, who was her bodyguard, the question was asked, number one, where was he? And he was with, Chloe and the rest of the sisters, doing a detail with them, leaving Kim alone. But at the end of the day, Kim should never have been left alone, period. She has enough money that, number one, she should have had a fleet of guys outside of her door, But some people, again, they take their high profile celebrity, for success. And again, she made a lot of mistakes flaunting off her jewelry and flaunting off, her riches. And at the end of the day, again, there's people, number one, to me, it doesn't matter how much money I ever make in this business. I don't believe in flashing. Most things I would spend money on is my clothes, and stuff like that. I take pride in how I dress, but, you need to keep a low profile when you have a name like Kim Kardashian. You can't be expecting that you're going to be showing, the insides of your hotel suite and inside of your house and letting people into your home in a reality show, and not think that, number one, that there's people out there that want to take that. They want to take that, they're jealous of your success, and they're jealous of your wealth and jealous of your power, But again, some people, number one, want to get to a certain level of, and call it whatever you may, call it conceitedness, call it, narcissisticness, they just think they're untouchable until they're put into a situation. And again, when shit hits the fan, She's not calling her mother. She's not calling Kanye. They're calling for the guy, number one, that, that's supposed to be protecting you. So at the end of the day, it was a security fail one-on-one, but it was also a security fail for her not doing what she should have done to be smart. Again, being smart online, letting the whole world see the inside of your hotel suite. If this wasn't an inside job, and it does sound that these were some actual real thieves, then you know what? You can't, again, she has to take the responsibility, which I think she's doing, which I commend her for, that, she shouldn't have put all her business out there in the world to see and expect that this wouldn't happen, because it would have happened at some point, whether it was in London or wherever she was, it would have happened anywhere. And it would happen to any person, bottom line. You don't have to be Kim Kardashian or a celebrity to know that. You put something out there, something that people want, and that's the nature of the business. People don't like to see other people with nice shit. They don't have, because they can't afford. So if there's an opportunity for them to take it, they're going to take it.
Well, and that, you can kind of understand why people think it was staged too, because that's one of the questions. You have so much money and you can afford all this security, and her husband has been asking for public donations for money, and the security cameras were not working apparently on that particular night. I mean, you can see why people would be suspicious.
True.
I don't know what happened. But I will admit that I was suspicious right off the bat because of the circumstances. But I think that's part of why people were suspicious, because she can afford all the security, and because she should know better, because she is so famous and she's been through it, and especially was it just a few days before that where somebody went up and grabbed her? Did you see that?
No, that was Gigi. That was Gigi Hadid with Vasily, the infamous prankster. Another guy who's a piece of crap. But again, number one, that guy should be in jail. For the amount of time that he pulled these pranks. I was actually in Cannes when he pulled a prank, down there, grabbing onto a celebrity's leg. And again, these are things that, again, people who, again, take their safety for granted, because, again, there's nut jobs like that everywhere. Not just with this jackass, but again, there's, I'd love to get 5 minutes of that dude. He wouldn't be doing no pranks really with anybody ever again. But, regardless, the fact is that, these celebrities who have all this money, it just mind boggles me. It mind boggles me, number one, but the fact that they don't take their security seriously until shit happens. People give her, Gigi shit for smacking the hell out of the guy, but what are you going to do? But again, it shouldn't have been her responsibility to do that. That's what you pay people, number one. You're going to pay all these publicists and people, number one, to promote your fame. Why wouldn't you put your security in your life first? It just mind boggles.
Right.
But again, I can't speak for what somebody else does. All I know in the sense, number one, is that at the end of the day, if I have that much money and I have that much power and influence, bottom line, the number one thing I'm really doing is making sure that my security and the people that I care about around me are safe at all times.
It boggles my mind too. I would be, and I think if I don't know how people who are extremely famous actually handle these situations, because I think I would be paranoid.
Well, why don't we get some callers about and ask them that question?
Yes, let's do that. Let's take a caller. You ready?
Hold
on. I'm going to get him online. We have Aaron with us. Aaron, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you for taking my call.
Hi,
How you
Aaron.
doing,
You're live on Rad Radio.
Thank you so much, guys. Hey, listen, I'll take that whole conversation you just had one step further, and then I got a couple of quick questions about him playing such an iconic character. And the fact that an African-American is playing Jason, I think, is something that needs to be mentioned, just like Elmo was an African-American. A lot of these guys, Hollywood doesn't really expose that, and I think it's great that that's starting to come through more and more in Hollywood. But The other thing that irritates me real quick is talking about this Kim Kardashian thing or the guys in the NFL is how many more multi-millionaires or billionaires do we need to see catching DUIs when they could have not even a bodyguard drive them home? And so nobody says that these people are intelligent. So, you know, you see this kind of stuff all the time, hit and runs, DUIs, people flipping over cars, and these are people that could easily afford a chauffeur for a night if they know they're going to go out and power drink. But my question about the Friday the 13th or Jason series does have to do with the fact that, you know, you're African-American playing that role. Number one, was it hard to get that role? And number two, how are you going to, in that series, allow Jason to eat watermelon through a hockey mask? Is that going to be difficult, or chicken? Is that going to be difficult for you? Or plus, will Jason have a food stamp card? Or
wait,
will he
what?
be fucking big, fat, chunky white women playing dice? Will he play basketball?
Sorry, we had to get rid of that guy. Oh, he was starting to get offensive. He was being offensive. Did you not hear what he was saying?
No, I didn't hear what he was saying.
All right. Oh, we're getting rid of that guy. He started bringing up watermelon and chicken, and apparently he's a douchebag. So, see you, Aaron. Bye. Oh, God. You get a lot of weirdos on the radio. Let me tell you, people. You get a lot of weirdos on the radio. And so that brings up, but, you know, because he was such an asshole, it does bring up an important issue, that there is still a lot of racism really prevalent in this country. And we see it all the time. And we see it with police violence. And we see it by the fact that, you know, blacks get arrested so much more than white people. I mean, I'm seeing it all over. And you see it with Donald Trump, who clearly is a misogynist and a racist. And I want to know your thoughts on that.
I mean, again, that topic in the sense, number one, of racism, I mean, it's been going on since the beginning of time, you know, unfortunately. And it saddens me that, you know, that 2016 we're still dealing with this, you know, and I think that, you know, that we unfortunately will probably always be dealing with this well after I'm gone. You know, the culture in the sense, number one, of you know, of black unarmed men getting killed. I mean, as I said, there are, as I said, you know, good police officers and there's bad police officers, but to me, it's not about good or bad anymore. It's about people being held accountable for their actions in a sense, number one. And at the end of the day, you know, the only way that we're gonna see changes within that, and changes within, you know, society is where, again, it goes back to people being held accountable, you know, for their actions, and the actions in the sense, number one, of where the police need to stop, you know, covering up their own, covering up, bottom line, the fact of, you know, when another police officer, number one, who does these criminal acts, and you know, again, it is, you know, it was in a sense, number one, you know, per se, you know, criminal, you know, it basically, you know, it comes to a point where, you know, I say that, you know, they need to be held liable, you know, they need to be held in a sense liable for, you know, what they do, and not, you know, not bottom line being able to hide behind, you know, per se, the badge, and, you know, and I just think all these things need to stop. And I think, number one, that we need to stop looking at, you know, at color, and not, you know, this is not a black thing. It's not a white thing. But, you know, this is something that, you know, that per se, that, you know what, that you need to be able to, you know, you need to be able, number one, to look at the bigger issue, and it's the point that these cops are getting away with murder, literally. So it doesn't matter whether it's a black or, I mean, yes, the percentage obviously is more black, unarmed black men, you know, but when they say, you know, at the end of the day, all lives matter, black lives matter, well, all lives matter when black lives start mattering, and you know, all lives matter per se, number one, that, we need to look at the bigger issues and the fact of not trying to turn this into a race war because, again, this could be a black person, a white person, an Indian person, a Hispanic person. It doesn't matter. I mean, no one deserves to get gunned down like a dog in the middle of the street by police, period. There's other ways in a sense. I mean, if you feel that your life, number one, is in danger, per se, number one, by someone that's unarmed, lying face down on a pavement. This had happened with that school teacher that was, that got shot a couple of months ago. And the teacher asked, the cop asked, the cop, why'd you shoot me? And he was like, I don't know. And again, meanwhile, these incidents, these families are losing their loved ones. Meanwhile, at the end of the day, there's a public outroar online, public outroar in the media, and then that cop takes, a 6-month sabbatical with paid leave, and then he moves on, and the next incident happens, and then they're doing it all over again. And then at the end of the day, like that last incident that we were just talking about, with somebody else getting shot, is quickly pushed to the side. And it just continues and continues and continues. And I'm sure at the end of the day, there's a lot more that we don't hear about, that we don't see about. It's just that right now, unfortunately, that at the end of the day, and to me, what bothers me the most, being a black man myself, is where other people who aren't black try to weigh in on what they think, in a sense, because everyone always has this, well, he shouldn't have been doing this, or they had a criminal past, or they had something, or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. Again, it doesn't matter about someone's past. It matters about the present moment. And if they weren't a threat to that individual police officer, that police officer was a shoot first and ask questions later, you're in the wrong job. You have to, again, it's not about training, and training obviously is a key part. But when you start putting these people, these cops and individuals that are doing these crimes, put them in jail and send that message, bottom line, that because we can't, as civilians, can't just go up and start shooting people. And to me, what gives that cop the same right is because they have a badge and they have an authority to be able to gun people down, like dogs, and not be held accountable for it.
Right. And look, this guy that was just on our show, you did not hear what he said, but I did. And he asked how you were going to eat watermelon and chicken through the Jason mask. That's when I cut him off. And that kind of racism is still prevalent today, and it boggles my mind, because are these people stupid? Is their IQ lower than the rest of us? They just haven't evolved? What is it? And his mindset, that guy that just called in, his mindset is prevalent in people who are running this country. Police officers, probably a bunch of politicians, and that's a scary thing. What do you have to say to that guy? Huh?
Again, and as I said, things that people say on the net, they wouldn't have the balls to say to certain people's face, but I can't. At the end of the day, number one, I'm not even going to justify ignorance with ignorance, because it just doesn't serve any purpose.
No, it doesn't. I just want to call him out and tell him he's a douchebag, and he hasn't evolved with the rest of us, clearly. That kind of thing just makes me angry. It just makes me angry. I don't understand the mindset. I don't get it, and like you said, a lot of people will try to justify a situation, like, well, the cop shot him and he was on drugs. Well, yeah, but is that a death sentence? Should drugs be a death sentence? You have to ask yourself that question when we see all these shootings. Well, they did so-and-so, and it was such and such, but was it a death sentence? And chances are no. There was nothing that this person did that would warrant the actions upon them. And I think that's kind of where a lot of people don't actually stop and think about the situation. They justify the situation. And, of course, we see it more with white people. Don't you agree?
True.
I mean, I am a white person, but I'm going to call us out.
I think there's ignorance everywhere. And I think that number one is that we just need to start we need to start treating people better. And again, I mean, I don't know where we got to this point where treating people with respect became uncool. I think that I've always said I really hope that the world one day goes blind for a day. We stop, looking at people based on their color and their skin, and start judging people based on their character, and get back to that, because I think that's what the biggest issue is, that we're so caught up with judging people that we don't know, and again, it goes back to the war of social media. At the end of the day, like, people, number one, feel that it's an okay excuse to use that platform to tear somebody down, but all they do in the process is make themselves look small. But again, regardless, you can't control the ignorance. You can't control, in the sense, number one, the way people want it. But let's take some more calls if you have some.
We actually just had a caller who apparently hung up. I lost him. I tried to get him online, and it hung up, so we have to wait till they call back before we can take another caller.
Just interrupt if somebody calls through.
What's that?
You can interrupt when someone calls through, so we can take some callers on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I will. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about was Donald Trump. In this whole election, what the hell is going on? What is this craziness?
As I said, I mean, I don't even really know where to start with this election. I mean, it's become a circus as far as I'm concerned. I mean, and I really fear that our country is going to be in a really worse situation, if that's even possible, than it is right now. I'm not a fan per se, number one, of either side per se, I mean, obviously when it comes to experience, I mean, you got to put the check mark in Hillary's, checkbox, but, in the sense of the values and issues and everything else, I mean, again, I've got my own opinions, and I'm not about to necessarily speak on them, but I just strongly believe that, that this has become more of a media joke than an actual election, and and the people that are only people that are going to suffer is, not just the Americans. I think a lot of different countries that America deals with is going to suffer. Whoever is in power, because the real issue is that, number one, at the end of the day, that people think that just because if Obama is no longer in power and whoever comes into next is going to be able to fix all of our problems that are going on, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who they put in power. We're never going to fix these problems, overnight. They're never going to be fixed in 8 years. Because the real issues that we should be focusing on, the real issues that should be being targeted about, poverty and the job market and the cost of living. These things that have become so out of control. Is where all I hear is people sit there and say, these politicians, well, I'm going to fix this and do this, but it's and at the end of the day, you got the people, number one, that will sit there and make Trump's an idiot and Trump is an idiot, and he makes a lot of stupid shit that he says, and and do I believe that he is the right man for the job? No. Do I believe that Hillary is the right woman for the job? No, because at the end of the day, it's where they they want something new with Donald, because we've never seen a presidential candidate like him. But then we have something of old, because Hillary's been in the game for a long time. So is that really going to give us any change of improvement than what we had from before, or just the same old back talk, the same old rhetoric of them doing the same things that was being done for years? And I think that's where we need to sort of sit back and realize at the end of the day that that the people that are chirping on the outside, it's like Obama said, it's very easy, number one, to stand on the sidelines and chirp. it's another thing, number one, to get into the game and play. You know, and I don't think anybody really, and I don't know, and anybody that, you know, that's never sat in that chair doesn't know the responsibility that it takes to run a nation. So at the end of the day, it's like, you know, people can sit there and say, well, I don't like this and I don't like that, but if you don't like it, then you know what, or you think you can do a better job, go through the same process they did, and maybe one day you can become presidential-elect and make changes. But until that day comes, I really think that, number one, that, you know, we need to stop giving this circus attention and really start, you know, really focusing on the matters at hand. That's my opinion on the whole election thing. The locker talk aspect, number one, of those statements that Donald Trump made were disgusting. You know, and if I was a woman, I'd be disgusted to hear them. You know, and it's deplorable. You know, I mean, and I know a lot of professional athletes. I was hoping to get, you know, a friend of mine. Hopefully he calls in, JTG, if you're listening. Please call him now, from WWE. If you know, I would love to hear him send his take, you know, on, you know, being a professional athlete, because I know before being a professional athlete myself, you know, when I played as a kid growing up and stuff like that too in school and everything else, and playing in semi-pro baseball, I mean, that type of talk. Well, I mean, there was banter, but there wasn't that disrespectful talk that was coming out of Donald Trump's mouth, you know, in the locker room. You know, I think, number one, that's just somebody that's just arrogant and has a lot of money and a lot of, you know, power, that feels that, number one, that is, you know, that is acceptable behavior to act. But again, as I said before, as a celebrity, I feel you have a responsibility to pass positive messages. And you're going to be the president of the free world. You know, if you're letting a culture of millennials know that, number one, that type of behavior and rape culture is acceptable by you and acceptable by men, because I don't believe, number one, in those values or those cultures. So again, I mean, to me, him being a father and having kids, it just disgusts me. You know, this is not some 12-year-old. This is not, and Billy Bush is saying that this is not some 12-year-old kid, you know, making a decision out of bad judgment. He was a 59-year-old man at the time, you know, a grown-ass adult, you know. And again, to him, bottom line, like avoiding the, you know, the topics in the sense, number one, at the debate, you know, it just shows, number one, more of his arrogance.
And you know, he said he defended himself by saying it was just locker room talk. But, you know, if you look at his history, we've seen him attack women on the basis of just being women. He attacked Carly Fiorina's looks. He attacked Megyn Kelly by, you know, accusing her of having her period because she was coming at him with the hard questions. He attacked, you know, the former, she was Miss USA, whatever pageant he controls. He attacks her on the basis of her appearance. I mean, I think in this case, when it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck, we got to call it a duck or a fuck, if you will. That's what I'd like to call it.
True.
Or an asshole. An asshole works too.
I mean, as I said, man, I mean, you know, regardless, you know, again, the name calling. I mean, as I said, I'm not going to go down that path in a sense, number one, you know, like, because again, I mean, you know, Robert De Niro just had a rant a couple of days ago, whatever, and you know, and again, it doesn't solve anything. You can't insult somebody that, you know, isn't easily insulted. And Donald Trump is one of those people, number one, that, you know, he can get insulted a million times. He just doesn't care. You know, so at the end of the day, it's like, you know, like, there's got to be other methods and other tactics in a sense, for me, where celebrities, instead of using the things to say, number one, like, he's an idiot or he says stupid shit or blah, 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 we already know he's going to say stupid shit. We already know he's going to say something dumb. It's going to come out of his mouth. You know, again, use your celebrity to basically, in a sense, number one, speak about the issues that need to be spoken about. Focus on those things. Don't let them become just a hashtag, you know. And that is where we start. That is where we start with change. That is where we start, in a sense, with influence were the fact that if we can't depend on the people in power to basically govern us and govern and do the things, number one, to protect our future and protect our families and to change, make those changes that necessarily need to be made, then you do it yourself. And you govern yourself and you govern your kids and you take back the power. This is what they do overseas. They don't like something, God forbid it gets to that point where we start having riots and stuff like that, and people start, rushing the White House and burning it down and stuff like that. But, if the way that this election is going is any indication of our future, I feel really scared in the sense, number one, of what it's going to be like the next time around. And at the end of the day, if a person that's, that non-qualified can get this far, to close to becoming the next president, I really am scared about what the future entails for the future people, number one, that run.
Right. The entire gene pool is 350 million people, and this is what we come up with. I'm absolutely astounded at the state of our nation right now. And I think that anyone who is not a straight white male, a wealthy straight white male, should be very frightened about the outcome of this election if Donald Trump happens to win.
I don't even want to think about it. I
know, right? I don't either. I just can't fathom. I can't fathom it. And, it really is kind of the lesser of two evils. And while I think Hillary has done some good, I also believe that she's bought and paid for. She's a corporate elite, and that's the problem with me. Because I want the system to change, and I don't feel it's going to change with her.
With Hillary, you mean?
What's that?
You said with Hillary?
With Hillary? Yeah, no, I don't think it's going to change with her because I feel that she's a corporate elite. She's bought and paid for. She's always in someone's pocket, and she's beholden to corporations. And I don't feel that the system's going to change at all with her. Do you?
No, that's what I was saying before. I said at the end of the day, it's the main reason why I won't be voting for either. Because I just feel it's the same rhetoric that we've already seen. There's nothing different that I'm going to see from her or hear from her that that wasn't done in the past. And again, Trump I just wouldn't vote for because I just don't believe the fact that he's the man that is going to necessarily help the issues that need to be helped when you have literally no experience whatsoever to do them. And again, you there's things that you start off learning. You learn how to ride a bike with no experience. But at the end of the day, those things take time. But that's completely different from running the entire free world. Of just winging it. We're not in a state right now where we can have somebody in charge that's just winging it. Playing it by the fly and going by in the sense, number one, because we, the American people, number one, the rest of the world deserves better. I think a lot of these countries are laughing at us right now in the sense of the way this election is going, and and again, that's why I believe that at the end of the day that we need to, until we can find somebody, because 8 years ago people thought they thought Obama was going to be the greatest thing, and I listen, I have no problem with Obama, no matter what people think of him, since I thought he did a good job, and he was clearly one of the coolest presidents we ever had. We're never going to have a president that was doing the things that he was doing ever again. But at the end of the day, love or hate him, whatever your views are, regardless, in the sense, number one, it's easy to criticize when you're not in the seat. And that job is not an easy job. I would not want it for the life of me. But at the end of the day, it's like, this is who they put in power. And as I said, it doesn't matter at the end of the day who's in that chair. People are always going to find a way to bitch. It's like their favorite television character, their favorite movie character, or whatever, or a show that they watch. There's always going to be some character they don't like, something they do like, because that's just the nature of the beast, to love and hate and, But again, to blame an entire situation on one person is where I feel that people have a lot of misjudgment wrong about people who are not in politics, and stuff like that, because it's never about one person. The decision making, that Obama makes, it's not just him making that decision. He's got handlers just like everybody else. Of course, he's got to pull the trigger. He's got to make the final decision. But at the end of the day, there's people, number one, that are advising him, putting stuff in his ear. And at the end of the day, he's got to filter through all that information and make a decision of what he feels is best, to represent the people, And sometimes he said it, he didn't words and say, sometimes I'm going to get it right. Sometimes I'm going to get it wrong. Sometimes, bottom line,
right. We have to. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say we have to wipe out all of Congress to start over.
Well, I guess yes. Hopefully it doesn't end up like the television show doesn't end up Survivor that way. But at the end of the day, that show really, bottom line with Kiefer, really starting to hit home, because at the end of the day, imagine if we had to start at zero, and that pressure and bottom line. If you were thrown into a situation to run the free world with no experience, how would you handle it? What would you do? And and nobody knows what they're going to do in that situation until they're in that situation. And to me, at the end of the day, it's like, I think we really need to stop, putting an issue of getting it perfect, because we're never going to get it perfect. They put an office never going to get it perfect. There's always going to be mistakes made, but it's a matter of learning from those mistakes. And I think that we haven't learned from those mistakes over the years, and that's why they continue to keep happening. Why there's this degree of separation between where it's not just about, it's a really sad world that we're living in, where the public, we can't trust cops, and we can't trust people that are supposed to be in charge running the free world. So where does that leave us?
You're exactly right.
So at the end of the day, if our kids who look at for us, bottom line, to be the leaders, because understand, when you're born as a child, you're not looking at that child's not caring about the president. He's not caring about who's in charge. He's not looking for the president to teach him right from wrong. He's not teaching him about the world. It's the parents that are teaching the kids about the world, that when they get into a point of adulthood, they can go out there and make the right decisions. But this is where, again, it has to start with us governing ourselves before we expect anybody to govern us. And at the end of the day, I think anybody wants to be governed. People sit there and say they want somebody in charge, but really, in reality, do we want anybody in power of us, making decisions for us, telling us how to eat, telling us to pay taxes, telling us to fucking, to obey the law? No. These are things, to me, that, number one, that start within the fact that when they say nobody is a racist, was born a racist,
Oh, bullshit.
It's the environment that they're around.
There's plenty of racists around. And it is. It's what they're taught. And I hate to interrupt you, because I'm interrupting you, but we're running out of time. We got about 20 minutes left, and I want to take another caller if you're cool with that.
Please.
All right, here we go. Hi, you're live on air on Rad Radio with Dteflon.
Hey, hi.
Who are we speaking to?
It's James Morrison.
James, this is the infamous.
Hey, how are you, man?
P. Morrison from 24. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, thanks. I've just got a second. I just wanted to call and say hello.
No, I'm glad you called in. We're talking everything right now to do with this whole election. And if you guys want to follow, this is a man that I always say people should be running for president, because I think he would make a great commander-in-chief if he wasn't a well-known actor. You can follow him at James P. Morrison on Twitter, and he has a lot of great things to say, in regards to this election and and politics in general, and and I we want to take your thoughts per se, James, on this whole mess that we're leading ourselves into in regards to the fact that you Are you with Hillary? Are you with Trump? Are you, I'm
a Hillary supporter. And, I don't have the temperament. I barely have the temperament to be on Twitter and talking about this, let alone running for office. That's just something I could never do, man. That would destroy me. I don't know how people do it.
I don't know either.
Oh, gosh. I think you have to be a little bit crazy to run for president. There's got to be something like a little screwed up.
Yeah, I think either that or you have to be completely service driven, and we've seen those people in history. I mean, they're public servants, and I think that we're seeing a lot of not that in this election, and a lot of that in this election, and the contrast is pretty clear to me. I think that to a lot of people. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, isn't it? We'll be glad when it's over.
I would definitely be glad. But I mean, who do you think? I mean, who do you think right now? In a sense, number one, I mean, if the polls were stopped today, who would you think would be our commander in chief? And do you feel that, being a Hillary supporter? I mean, I made a statement earlier on that, I'm really right now pro for none, for either. I would vote for a TikTok before I right now would vote for either, because I believe that, at the end of the day that, Trump is just not fit for office due to the fact that he just, it's not just a matter of the stuff that he speaks coming out of his mouth, but it's just that he is not the person that I believe that he's going to be able to protect and do the things to make our world and our economy and everything better. And when it comes to Hillary, to me, at the end of the day, it's a lot of the same old rhetoric. It's all, because we've already seen, what she's done and what she stands for, and that's great. But is it going to really be any different of change between what we've seen and somebody new that, and that's always said, I've said that, I believe that the governing should come within, the adults and us taking control back of, because again, we're living in a world where we can't trust who's the ruler of the free world, and we can't trust cops to protect us. So who can you turn to? Who can our kids turn to?
Well, listen. I think what it boils down to is the same thing. And the reason that you and I came together is because you were a fan of 24, and we've talked about the show. And I think what you ended up finding out about the temperaments of that in that high stress situation where the wrong move could literally destroy the world, at least a good portion of it, is that you have to really go with the adult in the room. You have to go with the person ultimately, regardless of what whether you're left leaning or right leaning. And I was a Bernie supporter. I'm not a center left person. I'm a left person. I'm a liberal. I'm a progressive, unapologetic, and I always have been. But historically, if we look back and go, what happened when we wavered, and when we said, there's an adult here, and there's a child here who's got maybe some privilege that they haven't really figured out yet, or look what happened in 2000. Look what happened between my very first election, Nixon McGovern. I mean, the world would be a different place if McGovern had won. Mm-hmm. And when you take that responsibility as seriously as you should, you have to learn from history. If you don't, then you can't really call yourself a progressive or and this is just my opinion. You have to learn from the mistakes of history. Mistakes were made in 2000. We know this person's behavior is irrational. I mean, that's being polite. We can't let him near the White House. Very polite. So, we just can't let that happen. So, whatever we have to do to make that, and Bernie Sanders is not a choice at this point, and in fact, he's wholeheartedly endorsing Hillary. So, he knows where he's going to work best, and he's going to be able to work with her, and in fact, moved her toward some of his policy positions pretty handily. So she's not immovable, And I think the other guy is. I mean, the other guy is off the rails.
But what do you think that is? I mean, the fact that he has gotten this far, which is a scary thing. You know, where do you think that has to do? I mean, our mindset as society now? Like, I mean,
well, I think there are a lot of angry people, man. I mean, listen, there are people who and look at his rallies. They're angry. In fact, they're so irrationally angry that they're not even within sight and sound of reason. So, you know, if they're excusing a sexual predator, man. There's no. That's just beyond the pale. How can, huh?
It's true.
No
I mean, I think people are so hungry for change. People and everybody, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, is sick of the status quo and what has been happening in our country, that I think they're so desperate that they're willing to back what could very well be a dictator.
Well, and you know, the interesting thing about the status quo, and everybody's saying, you know, that Hillary represents the status quo, is that, you know, traditionally the conservative ideology has been one of maintaining the status quo. So suddenly now we have this shift, and people are going, wait a minute, how can this be happening? We have to destroy the status quo, and these are the people that have always, you know, the right wingers have always been the ones to try to maintain it and keep it, you know, to avoid change. And now they've taken over this mantle of, oh yeah, we have to change this. Man, there's, you know, to what? To everything that he espouses. That's not change, man. That's regression. That's regressive. That's regressive policy. That's going to take us backwards. That's not change. You know, I don't know. Change is a different thing. Change is progress. Progress is change, and there's no progress in what he's espousing and representing and asking for, promoting, however you want to put it. I mean, there's no progress there.
I mean, to me, right now, I mean, after all these months, I mean, I don't even really know what Trump. I mean, because as I said, this has become more of a circus, and each day the crap that comes out of his mouth.
Because it's all about him. It's all about him, man. It's not about it's not even about what he wants to do for America anymore. It's about him, and you see it in his rhetoric and his tweets and his demagoguery and his threats that he, you know, the first thing I do is put you in jail because I mean, come on, that's so outrageous. It's like you know, it's beyond being comic now, but it really is. If they put this in a movie, they'd say you've gone too far. It's that outrageous.
What is your thoughts, in the sense, number one, on his rhetoric of the recent leaked video of his apparent locker room talk? You know. Oh yeah. You hear the locker room thing. Listen, you know, you and I have been around guys that talk about women, and we've been in locker rooms. We've heard people talk, and locker room talk is a different thing. Locker room talk is when you talk about the girl that you saw in the coffee shop, and man, you can't get her out of your mind, or you swear, or it's a lot of it is inappropriate language, but it's not threatening sexual violence. The cat Trevor, what's his face on Comedy Central, the Daily Show, the best take on it that I've heard so far.
The new one or the old one?
Yeah. Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah.
Yeah, Trevor Noah.
You know, he's so smart and charming, but he got so pissed at this, and he was talking about the difference between guys talking about women and what Trump said is enormous. It's just not the same thing. It's you can't dismiss this as simple locker room talk. It's vile. It's aggressive. It's sexual predator stuff. You know what I mean? It's different. It's a whole different thing. Because we've been in locker rooms, man. You know, and if you hear guys talking like that, you don't hang with them. That's bizarre. And personally, I've never heard it.
Neither have I.
I've never heard guys talking about how they get away with putting their hands on women who don't want their hands on them. That's a whole different ball game, man.
So what are your thoughts? I took it as an offense in a sense, you know, and I think you should take it, you know, being a well-known celebrity in the industry, where he says, you know, that when you're a celebrity, you can get away with anything. You know, what are your thoughts on the fact of? I mean, did you ever see this stuff?
It's so off the chain. Say it again. Sorry.
Did you ever see that type of, you know, what did you with 24 or any other shows that you worked with? You ever seen any actor?
Oh no, I've never heard anybody say anything that outrageous. I mean, it's just not. You know, it's not. You feel his comments were obviously, you know, were wrong in regards to him saying that as a celebrity, you know, you're entitled to do whatever you want and get away with whatever you want. You know, there's a lot of entitlement among people with a lot of money who were born into money, who were born into show business, who were handed something early. There's a lot of entitlement and a lot of, as you know, it's not the place you want to go to find the most sane people. Certainly, there are a lot of great people in the business, but this is beyond that, man. This is somebody bragging about how he uses his power and money and position to sexually assault women, and that's a whole different ballgame. I mean, that's criminal activity. So that it's not just, you know, the chicks dig me because I'm rich and you know, they like to hang. They can't resist. This is something. It's just something completely different. So that's what I mean. It's just not locker room talk. Locker room talk is something quite different. And I'll tell you what, man. The majority of and you've seen it today. You've seen the reaction. The majority of professional athletes who spend their lives in locker rooms have come out and said, "Man, this doesn't happen. This is different." It just is, because it would be, first of all, it would be reported, it would be, reviled, it would be, it would be made public. They'd be reprimanded for it, just like he should be. Beyond reprimand, I mean, it's repulsive.
Well, do you feel in a sense, number one, because I saw now, like I was watching today on the news where they were talking about people who used to work for him at Apprentice, like girls and stuff like that, were saying that, you know, he had been sexually offensive to me. And I mean, in a culture where, for example, with the whole Bill Cosby scandal, you know, it took years and years and years, you know, whether it was true or wasn't true, for people to get together and make that statement for it to become public. You know, do you feel in a sense, number one, now that if that was the case and he was doing these sort of things, that he should be above? Because if take his money, his power, his celebrity out of the equation. If Donald Trump was just a regular person, you know, if it wasn't a person that was in the public figure that said these things, would you feel that person would probably get either charged or arrested or investigated in some way? So why does it give him the power to not have be held to their same accountability?
Well, exactly. If any employer in a workplace would be brought to account for this, they would be held responsible for this kind of behavior. You know,
I agree.
It just so I mean, look, Billy Bush was, man, and he was just a sort of almost he was a participant, but you know, he really was sort of. You know, he was there. You know, he was guilt by association, and he lost his job, man. Why should?
Make this holiday season a season of savings using your Just For You app at Safeway and Albertsons. With Just For You, you can stretch your holiday budget and celebrate more. Download these coupons on Just For You and click or clip for great deals, like Hormel Cure 81 Premium Spiral Half Ham Bone-In, $1.49 a pound. And for holiday cooking and baking, Lucerne Large Eggs 18 count, 99 cents. Plus, stock up on General Mills cereals, select varieties, just $1.88. Just for you at Safeway and Albertsons for the holidays. It's just better.
Oh yeah, baby. You're listening to Rad Radio.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rad Radio. I'm your host, Dani Mcmartin. And tonight we have the multi-talented actor, writer, producer, musician, and bodyguard to the stars, Dteflon, on the show with us. How are you doing, D?
I am doing okay. How's everybody up there?
What's that?
I said I'm doing okay. How is everybody up there today?
Oh, yeah, everybody here is great. You have a little bit of were you telling me earlier you have a little bit of a cold tonight?
Yeah, I've been struggling some traveling though. I've been on the road for the last few weeks, and so I've been sort of picked up a little bit of a bug. So I apologize if I sound like Gargamel from Sesame Street here.
I think you sound all right. To me, you sound pretty good. I'm sure the ladies are gonna think you sound all right. But moving right along. By the way, you single ladies. But moving right along. So you've been in the entertainment industry for over 10 years, and you're quite multifaceted.
22 to be exact.
And so tell us.
Celebrate my 22-year anniversary of being in the entertainment industry this year.
Is that right? Because I had seen your bio, and it said over 10 years. Even 10 years is a long time
it probably hasn't been updated.
Entertainment industry.
It probably, I don't know, you might have been reading an old bio. It probably might have been not been updated, whatever, which one you read. But yeah, it's been a long journey, man. It's been 18 years in film and television, and 22 years as a whole in the whole business itself.
Yeah, you do a little bit of everything. So, and
yeah,
for people who don't know who you are, maybe you can tell everyone what you do, all the things that you do.
Well, basically, I mean, as I said, I started from the ground up, I guess you would say. I entered this business in around 1993. Where I actually started to thought this was something that I was passionate about and I wanted to do. My initial beginning was a dancer. That's what I started off as, and I worked first in the club circuit when I was younger, and then eventually that opened doors for me to connecting with a few musical artists that had me do a little, dance infomercial commercials back, I guess, when CDs were around and people used to have to put out promotional videos to sell their albums and stuff like that. And then that ended up eventually caught the attention of a few of the major artists that were in the era of that time, which the first person that was to give me a break was Jordan Knight of New Kids on the Block when he decided to go on to his solo career. And I worked as a backup dancer for him for the first 5 years professionally, and doing choreographing for a lot of his musical shows and videos. And I got to go on tour and do a few things with that. And then eventually that opened the door for me doing some dancing work with artists such as CeCe Peniston, CNC Music Factory, Robin S., Stevie B, and it was a fun time. It was something that I enjoyed doing, and I worked the club circuit still as a dancer, and for a very long time. And then I had a breakdancing crew that we went around and we battled people for competitions and stuff like that, and then eventually, Mother Time takes over and your body starts to take a beating, and injuries per se, number one, of sort of caught up with me, and I realized I wanted to step into a different realm. And from that point on, I moved on into the musical field as a musician. And if you can look up some of the stuff that I've done on my website, which is Dteflon.com, or on YouTube. Before I'm a professional musician as a drummer, with a drum corps, and basically traveled the globe with that. Did that for almost 13 years until I retired from doing it, from performing, competing and stuff like that, and pretty much everywhere, and we went to Hawaii and Japan and